Oke, hari ini kita baca buku judulnya Organization Theory and Design, an International Perspective. Penulisnya ada tiga, Richard L. Daft, Jonathan Murphy, and Hugh Wilmot. I'm sorry if I mispronounced the names. Um, Ini masih di lembar-lembar pertama, kita langsung masuk ke Part 1, Introduction to Organizations. Dia dibagi kepada dua. Nomor satu itu menjawab pertanyaan what are organizations, dan kedua adalah perspectives on organizations. Ini baca dari judul, subjudul sampai dengan chapter, subchapter, judul chapter kayak gini seakan-akan akan membaca keseluruhan buku, tapi enggak bakalan. Kita akan baca kita akan baca potongan-potongannya saja. Mungkin nanti akan berlanjut ya di episode-episode berikutnya. Ya, ini hanya bagian dari upaya untuk menjadi konsisten dan juga menciptakan atau memulai sebuah habit untuk belajar minimal satu hal baru setiap harinya, instead of just scrolling the social media. What are organizations? Oke. Jadi buku ini memulai chapter satunya dengan sebuah dia menyebutnya dengan istilah a look inside, tapi ini adalah studi kasus pastinya. Philips and V. Ini kayaknya akan bercerita tentang perusahaan Philips, yang bikin lampu, peralatan elektronik rumah tangga, gitu-gitu. Kita akan hanya banyak membaca di episode kali ini. Philips and V. Philips was one of the world's first genuine multinationals, founded in Eindhoven, Netherlands by Gerard Philips in 1891. The company initially manufactured light bulbs, seizing the opportunity of widespread home and business electrification. Electricity soon brought opportunities for inventing and selling further electrical devices, and during much of the 20th century, no European company seized market opportunities better than Philips. The relatively small size of Holland's domestic market pushed the company to seek new markets on the continent and eventually beyond. By the mid-1980s, the company was active in 14 different divisions, ranging from the original lighting sector to large appliances and the new field of computers. Philips' product development laboratories were unparalleled, developing cutting-edge electrical equipment across the company's vast product range. But as is often the case in business, at the height of Philips' success, storm clouds were gathering on the horizon. Wow, nice wording. Several different factors were beginning to work against the company as it approached its second century. One issue was the very loose organizational structure that the company was forced to adopt when it internationalized. Before the great era of trade and market liberalization that began in the 1970s, it was simply not possible to centralize functions globally. Indeed, during the Second World War, when Holland was occupied by the German Nazis, international branches of Philips basically operated entirely independently. Even in normal times, companies wishing to enter different countries Even in normal times, companies wishing to enter different countries' markets were typically forced to set up fully functional national units with their own manufacturing, marketing, and distribution systems. The national units that had to be set up tended to become autonomous power bases. In theory, this could have been beneficial if innovative approaches were developed and tested in one country and then rolled out internationally, as was the case, for example, for the Anglo-Dutch consumer product firm Unilever. But consumer electronics are different from household products. They are costly to develop and generally don't require tailoring to individual markets. Thus, centralized product development tends to be the preferred approach. Okay. Mhm. Autonomy sometimes reached extremes. For example, when Philips in North America decided to manufacture early video recorders based on a competitor's product. Okay. Another problem was bureaucracy and inefficiency. Philips was so successful for so long that workers and managers began to see their positions as jobs for life. Employment grew and grew. Ultimately, Philips had over 300,000 employees worldwide. Eindhoven itself was every bit the company town. Philips took on numerous social projects ranging from the Philips Library and Theater to the PSV Eindhoven football team, which under Philips' benevolent sponsorship became one of the giants of European club soccer. The Philips product development division seemed to lose its knack for cheating. Okay. The Philips product development division seems to lose its knack for creating, sorry. Why do I say cheating? Creating, okay. The Philips product development division seemed to lose its knack for creating products that fit customer needs. Its early forays into computers, in particular, were not competitive with either the U.S. giants like IBM and later Compaq, or the emerging brands from the Far East. By the 1980s, Japan had emerged from its early post-war avatar as producer of cheap copies of Western consumer goods. In motorcycles, then the automobile industry, and faithfully for Philips in electronics. Philips' bottom line suddenly turned red. Despite faithful efforts to cut costs in the late 1980s, by 1990 the company had run up an accumulated deficit of $2.6 billion. Wow. Philips turned to a new company president, Jan Timmer, if that's how to pronounce his name, who slashed the company's workforce by 50,000, got out of the computer business altogether, terminated a number of unprofitable joint ventures, and reoriented the company towards Asian production facilities in the place of increasingly costly Europe. Timur's hard-nosed strategy stemmed some but not all the bleeding. Timur's hard-nosed strategy stemmed some but not all the bleeding. In 1996, Sony Philips biggest sorry. In 1996, Sony Philips' biggest competitor generated sales of $43 billion with 150,000 employees, while Philips managed only $37 billion with almost twice as many workers. In 1996 and again in 2001, the company changed its top management, but the same cycle of job cuts, divestments, market upticks, and then disappointing losses continued. The competitive situation became even more dire, as Korean brands like LG had joined the Japanese giants as global competitors, cleaning up the cost-conscious market segment, while Sony and Toshiba had a stranglehold on the most affluent customers. The enigma of Philips was that while the company's engineers brought many of electronic technology's most important innovations to market, for example, the audio cassette, the compact disc, and the DVD, it didn't seem able to take commercial advantage of the breakthroughs. In the early years of the new millennium, Philips resolved the move away from being a manufacturing-driven company towards one that would be customer-driven, a change in direction that involved a much greater focus on what insiders called the marketing journey. Nice. From 2004 onwards, Philips' fortune seemed to be on the upswing. Finally, the company seemed to be doing well with its innovations. Medical systems and consumer electronics sales were up 9% and 10% respectively, but temporary growth blips like that had been seen before. What was more important, sales from newly introduced products rose sharply. In the medical area, 70% of sales were of products introduced in the previous 2 years, unusual for a field with typically long product cycles. Company-wide, the proportion of sales derived from products introduced in the previous 2 years rose from a quarter in 2003 to over half in 2006. Oke, kita akan ulang baca dari dua paragraf sebelumnya. The enigma of Philips was that while the company's engineers brought many of electronic technology's most important innovations to market, for example, the audio cassette, the compact disc, and the DVD, it didn't seem able to take commercial advantage of the breakthroughs. In the early years of the new millennium, Philips resolved to move away from being a manufacturing-driven company. Okay, dia move away from being a manufacturing-driven company towards one that would be customer-driven, a change in a direction that involved a much greater focus on what insiders called the marketing journey. Okay, from 2004 onwards, Philips' fortune seemed to be on the upswing. Finally, the company seemed to be doing well with its innovations. Medical systems and consumer electronic sales were up 9% and 10% respectively, but temporary growth blips like that had been seen before. What was more important, sales from newly introduced products rose sharply. In the medical area, 70% of sales were of products introduced in the previous 2 years. Unusual for a field with typically long product cycles. Company-wide, company-wide, the proportion of sales derived from products introduced in the previous 2 years rose from a quarter in 2003 to over half in 2006. In 2008, Philips moved to simplify its organizational structure, establishing three core divisions of consumer, healthcare and lighting, which helped to focus the company. mm, Establishing three core divisions of consumer, healthcare, and lighting, which helped to focus the company on its best performing product lines. The current CEO of Frans van Houten, who arrived in mid 2011, has taken this focused strategy to a new level by ruthlessly eliminating sunset products, particularly in the globally cutthroat home entertainment sector, where convergence between the computer and entertainment segments can wipe out whole product categories overnight, while creating new must-haves such as tablets. Televisions, long the company's talisman products, were ditched altogether, along with video players, another declining segment. Van Houten is acutely aware that in a sprawling company such as Philips, wayward units can lose touch with market trends and eventually end up hurting the overall bottom line. So, in conjunction with the CFO, Van Houten designed a dashboard computer program allowing senior managers to look at. So, in conjunction with the CFO, Van Houten designed a dashboard computer program allowing senior managers to look at performance across the company and its different geographic and product operations and quickly check performance and trends. This helped Philips to develop a more sophisticated and forward-looking product focus. For example, in Western markets, with their affluent aging populations, the company is focusing particularly on consumer healthcare products, while in emerging markets, it is tailoring its products design and marketing to meet the needs of new and discriminating consumers. Originally, Philips focused on other products in emerging markets such as vegetable choppers in Russia and shavers in China, increasingly in both developed and emerging markets. However, Philips is focusing on healthcare. And indeed brands itself as a healthcare business. Mhm. Revenues and profits have been solid. In 2017, the company had profits of 1.8 billion on sales and 18 on sales of 18 billion. Wow. Philips' trajectory is similar to that of many other companies in today's volatile environment, where companies constantly revisit their organizational design, in order to address changing consumer preferences and business environments. Wow. Okay, nice insight from the story behind the growth and development of Philips up until today. Okay.